Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Communications Masterclass. Today, we are going to be talking about the psychology behind being trusted, liked, and respected, and most importantly, remembered. So, thank you to Nisha for being live today. I know we have other people coming on. And for those of you enjoying the replay, thanks for being here too. So, Nisha, I'm going to start with you and then I'll answer the same question. Do you have a person in your past? Oops, just lost Nisha. That's okay. I will start and she may join us again. Um, uh, do you have a person in your past who is special to you? Someone from a long, long time ago who's still important and you can't forget? For example, and she's back. Hey, Miss Nisha. I was just asking if you or the people in the replay, if there's someone important from their past, someone from way back when, but they remember them vividly, even if they don't communicate with them now. An elementary school teacher, a boss, even a stranger who just touched you. Is there someone who comes to mind for you?
Yes, I don't know who she is, but she was my library teacher in kindergarten.
Uh-huh.
And she's the reason I enjoy storytelling. I don't know who she is. She may not be alive, but she really had an impact on me. Just, I love listening to other people's stories. And I don't know who she is.
No, but she left a footprint in your life and it's awesome. What was it about her that made her so memorable to you?
She was very comforting.
Mhm.
I mean, we had to be maybe 7, but I remember walking in a line into the library. She had us sit in a little corner, and she would always give us those sweet tarts.
Uh-huh.
Everybody sweet tarts, and then she would pick out a book she's going to read, and then tell us some things about why she liked the book, and go into the book. And I remember love going to the library for that reason. I knew we were going to get the sweet tarts, and I knew she was going to tell us a story about either something in her home or something that she experienced, and then we went right into the book.
Mhm. That's exciting. That's exciting. I know my person is actually my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Figdor, and because I was a painfully shy child, but she was so kind, and she always made me feel heard, and she made me feel special. And, that and she had a very creative way of teaching, which was awesome, but it was how she made me feel that has made her so memorable. And the interesting thing is she has since passed away, but many, many, many years later, when I was 50 or something like that, I bumped into her in a store and she was the exact same way. She just made me feel all warm and fuzzy and heard. So those are the types of communication skills we want to talk about today because communication is more than just talking. Communication is about an experience. It's about the emotional connection that you have with someone. Because at the end of every conversation, you've left an emotional fingerprint. And the question is, was it a positive fingerprint or was it a negative fingerprint? And the people who leave the positive fingerprints are the ones that we remember the most, even if they're strangers, because there's a stranger that is in my life, probably 10 years ago. And it's actually kind of a sad story, but she touched me deeply. And I appreciated her transparency. And that was a woman who was behind me in line. And I told her, I happened to catch her out of the corner of my eye, and she was probably in her late 70s or 80s and just beautiful skin. And so I told her that. I told her that, you've got such beautiful skin. I touched her hand and told her that. And then I turned around and I did my thing. And as I'm walking out the door, I heard this tiny, tiny, tiny little thank you. So I turned to look at her and she had tears streaming down her face. And what struck me about that is that she was so transparent. There was something really special about that moment that she and I shared. And I have no idea who she is. I have no idea what was going on in her life right now. But at that moment, that phrase, "you have beautiful skin," really touched her. And it made me sad that I made her cry, but happy that I touched something in her, because communication is an emotional experience. Now, the cool thing about communication and first impressions is that there's actually a physiology behind it. The brain is programmed from way, way back when to know, when I'm communicating with you, do I feel safe? Is there going to be something positive by me having a communication with you? Those are the types of things that the brain is asking subliminally or subconsciously when we communicate. And if your brain can say, "Yeah, I feel really safe with Misha. I feel comfortable with her. I feel like by spending time with her, I'm going to be a better person because of it. My life will be enriched because I know her." And those are the types of things that the brain tells us. So there's actually scientific basis for the of first impressions. People will, before people trust you, they need to feel safe with you. And that's really where it makes a difference, because connection can creates credibility, and credibility creates trust. Good morning, Miss Dee Dee. I'm glad you're here.
I am glad I'm here. I got distracted watching something.
Oh, I've done that. I've done that. Vicky's been known to call me and say, "Did you forget that we have a lifeboat call?" So what we were just talking about is that um, there's a scientific reason behind good first impressions. That our brains are actually programmed to determine, am I safe with you? Is it a positive thing? Can I trust you? Do you respect me? Those are the types of questions that people are unconsciously asking themselves whenever they meet you for the first time. Now, I asked Nisha a question, and now I'm going to ask you. Is there someone in your life, past or present, who you instantly liked? There was just something about them that made a real impression on you. A friend, a teacher, a boss, a coworker.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A matter of fact, that's one of my saving graces. I pick those people out and I, you know, work with them. Yeah.
Mhm. And that's great. And what is it about them that makes you say, "Wow, I want to work with them"?
They're calm.
Mm-hmm. That's
They
a
have a
big.
sense of humor. They have a sense of humor, or they can allow things to happen without overreacting.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't overreact.
That's huge.
They think about issues.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, it's very hard for me to get a real strong Christian person to get to like me. They have to have a little bit of openness to something new and different.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean they have to change who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't have to throw me out because I'm not exactly them.
Exactly. Exactly. And those are the types of qualities that we look for in a person who we like and we trust and who we remember. Somebody who's calm, who is emotionally stable, someone who's kind. It's obviously somebody who's honest. You never hear, when I ask that question of people, you never hear them say, well, they had a really big vocabulary, or, they had a great job title. Nobody, that's not why people like other people. Yes, Dee Dee.
I mean, I believe in honesty, but I believe in honesty from the heart. I've seen so many people use honesty like a club. They're, I'm being honest with you. You stink, or you got to use a better deodorant, or they take their idea of honesty and they use it as a club for someone else.
Mhm.
And this kind of, it's
That's true.
kind
It's
it
true.
is very difficult for me to do. So I guess I would say it's socially acceptable to be decent rather than honest. Decency becomes before honesty in my mind.
Unfortunately, I think that has become the case. And that's where I think, in addition to honesty, and I think maybe better words are trustworthy. If I tell you that I'm going to call you tomorrow at 2, I call you tomorrow at 2.
That's true.
That I'm authentic.
Yeah.
I think those are the types of things that people look for in other people. And those things are all conveyed through communication, through the words, through your voice, through your nonverbals. So there are 6 communications habits that we're going to talk about today that specifically tie into the psychology of being liked, trusted, and remembered. And they're not things that you normally think about in terms of communication, but it's exactly what it is. It is about communication. And the first one is to make somebody feel interesting. Not interested, interesting. And you do that by being interested in them. You do that by asking better questions. You do that by encouraging stories, by being curious about them. Because when you are expressing interest in someone else, they are more inclined to be open to you. And likewise, then, to be interested in you. As opposed to a person who, and you see this a lot in professional environments where, the people are so busy they don't really care. I have a function. We're on the same team. We need to, we need to work together. So let's just work together. But they treat you like a tool as opposed to a person. And so to be more memorable and more liked, more trusted, and more remembered, you really, you've got to give a little to get a little. And the first step there is to make people feel interesting. The second one is to serve instead of impress. Sometimes people, they want to talk about themselves all the time. It's all about them. And this goes back to the first thing of asking questions. Engage with the other person and find out what you can do to benefit them. Because, people have a tendency to want to impress more than they want to serve. They want to look just right. They want to sound smart. They want to use big words or show off their fancy job title or whatever. But you really want people remember value. And so the value that you provide to them by serving them in some fashion. And sometimes serving them in some fashion just means saying something that made them feel good about themselves. Um, Sometimes it's coming to their rescue for something, or by coming alongside them and being a teammate. So you want to serve instead of impress. Dee Dee, did you have something you wanted to say?
It's gone.
Sorry.
No, I think you covered it, and I just wrote it down when you did. So,
Okay, good. Good. The third thing is that you want to create psychological safety. And this goes back to the science of first impressions. People need to know that they are going to feel safe with you. And part of the way you do that is one of the first things that you said, Dee Dee, by being calm, by having control of their emotions, by being non-judgmental, by being respectful, particularly of the differences that we each have. And by being patient. Being patient is huge. I have a client who is not a terribly patient person. And that's what one of the things we're working on with her is because with her team, she has more experience than other members of her team. And therefore, she feels smarter than the other people in her team. And if she's smarter, then that automatically means that what she's presenting to them is that you're not as smart as I am. Well, how do you think that makes the people feel? She doesn't come out and say that, but that's how they feel when they talk to her, that she's talking down to them because they're just not quite as good as she is. That is not a safe place that people want to be. They don't want to talk to that. They don't want to be associated with that. They don't want to spend time with that. So by creating a psychologically safe place for the people with whom you're communicating can make a huge difference in whether you are liked or not liked. The fourth thing is the little things. Remember the little things. Now, I used to have a great memory. I could tell you your kids' names, your pets' names. I would remember what birthday month your kids were born in. I would remember your birthday. All of these things that made people feel important. And that's really what details do. They help people feel important, and it tells them you matter. So whenever you meet someone new, you want to try to remember one thing about them, whether it's personal or professional. It doesn't matter. It's something that says you matter. And you matter enough to me that I remembered. The very first step in that is remembering names. And that can be really, really hard for people. Some people just know it. They're just really good at names. I used to be really good at names. Now my husband and I have a deal that if I say, "Hey, it's great to see you. How have you been?" and I don't introduce him in like the first 10 to 15 seconds, that's where he sticks his hand out and he says, "I'm her worse half. I'm Steve." Now, where you run into problems with that is when the person just says, "Hi, Steve," and never gives their name.
I have a problem with names because for me, my dyslexic memory hides things in my brain. So
Mhm,
I have to see it, hear it, and then experience it. Like I have to write the name down again and again and again to
mhm,
remember it. And if you're sitting there just meeting someone, you're not going to have the chance to have a pen and paper to write it down and again and again and again. So I've gone to that, embarrassing point of saying, "Hi, Anna. Thank you for introducing yourself to me. Please, I'm dyslexic. I have this issue with names. If I don't remember, please forgive me. I'll remember your coffee order, but I
exactly,
won't remember the name. I'll remember what kind of food Italian you like, yeah, you know. So, but I won't remember the name, and it's always been a sore point in my life because I feel, yeah, people don't think I recognize them because I can't find where I stored the name.
mhm.
And that's so sad. It's so
It is.
horrible.
It's hard. It's very hard. Some people have real issues, and yet other people, I mean, they'll remember their phone number from when they were a kid.
Hartmut, my husband, I call him my walking encyclopedia. If I mention someone's name and there's a, months later, years later, they'll say, "Oh yeah, you're talking about Todd, the guy from blah blah blah," and I'm
Yeah,
like, "How do you do that? I'm so jealous," you know.
exactly. But those are the things that matter, and the name is number
Mm.
1. But even if you can't remember name or their name, like you said, you remember their coffee order. There's something. Try to find something. If you're not positive, sometimes it's still worth the risk to say, "You have a daughter, right?"
Mhm.
And, and you may be wrong, you may find out it's a son or they have no children, but remembering previous conversations like your husband does or details like that, that is a huge gift.
I know.
So, making a point when you meet someone for the first time, after you've left the conversation, just say something to yourself. You know, Brenda is a scuba diver. And hopefully that will file something away in your brain. And you may not remember it as soon as you see her again, but the next time you're talking, you can say, "Hey, have you been on any scuba trips lately?" So by remembering small details makes people feel like they matter, like they were important. And we all like to feel important. And the last thing, or no, the number 5 is leave people better than you found them. Now, Nisha, after you talk to someone, when you meet someone, what impression do you want them to come away with? What do you want to leave a person with?
For me, I want to, it, just depending on the conversation, if there's, I guess, for lack of better words, like a new aha, maybe,
Oh,
just
that's
depending
good.
on the conversation.
Hmm.
Because, things can come out. And I, at camp, one lady, her daughter had the same allergies my daughter had. And so by me mentioning the only thing we didn't have was hot tea, she was like,
Hmm.
"Oh, so hot tea works." So it
Uh-huh.
made me feel good that, I was able to share something that she can walk away with that will help her after our exchange.
Excellent. Excellent. What about you, Dee Dee? What do you want people to walk away from after they've met you?
Most of the time is that they feel calm, that they
Mhm,
feel calm and um, trusting,
mhm,
because people usually divulge to me all kinds of things normally that they wouldn't tell other people.
mhm.
And the first thing is, "Are you going to tell someone else?" And I'm like, "No." I really don't have anybody to tell, and I don't do that, you know.
And that's a
um,
good thing. That's a good one to remember. And I love the calm part. That's so good. And in this crazy world that we're in, how busy we all are, it's nice to have a conversation. I had a friend once who that's how I felt after I talked to him. I felt so calm and relaxed. He just had this way about him that made you feel that way. And it was a special feeling. It's nice to get a respite and feel calm in the crazy world.
yeah, and there's and part of the craziness I see in the world is that people don't trust they can find solutions to what's arising.
Hmm.
And there's so much hype about what you can't do, or what you oh, you can't handle that. Yeah, I can handle not having everything pre-prepared. I can cook. I'm, I your time, your energy. There's so much hype about and a negativity, and well, if somebody insults you, you've got to fight back, And I mean, you have to react, reactiveness in our culture that causes so much emotionalism. It's nice just to end with calmness.
Exactly. And for me, I think it's that I want people to feel encouraged. I want them to feel better about themselves. And those are the types of things that you can leave people with. Obviously, if there's a problem and you fix the problem, then you've left them with a solution, which is always a good thing. But that's not 90% of the conversations we've had. So by leaving them encouraged or more hopeful or more clear about a situation, more confident, feeling gratitude. Yes, Nisha.
Now that I have more clarity on the question, I guess I would change mine to allowing people to feel heard.
Oh, good one.
So
That's
that
good.
one, because I guess I know how it feels on the other end, and I
Mhm,
know sometimes it can take a few seconds to get out what they're trying to say. So I
mhm.
definitely want them to feel like they felt heard when they were speaking.
That's a great one. That's really good. I like that. Being heard, calm. Those are excellent ones. And those are the things that you want to leave people better than you found them. And more often than not, you haven't fixed a problem because average everyday conversations are not about fixing a problem. So you want them to feel heard. You want them to feel calmer, better about themselves. And that is a great gift from an executive presence standpoint. That's one of the tools there, that if you're a leader and at the end of the conversation, people are happy that they've talked to you because you've made them feel heard. You made them feel more relaxed. You made them more hopeful or encouraged about something. So leaving people better than you found them. And number 6 is to be consistent. Be consistently trustworthy. Be consistent in your authenticity, meaning that your words and your voice and your body language are congruent. Trust grows from predictability. If I promise that I'm going to have something sent into your messenger by 1 o'clock and I get it to you by 1, that's great. If I don't send it at all, or I get around to it when it's convenient around 4 or 5, that's not showing you respect. And you probably won't like it. You definitely won't trust that if I say I'm going to do something at a certain time, I'm going to do it. And you may remember me, but you'll remember me as the person who didn't do what she said she was going to do. So, following through, being kind, being consistently kind, keeping your promises, showing up prepared, Those are all things that help build trust, because trust is built in small moments. It's not that you do one thing. You can do lots of things and the trust gradually builds. And then you can do something that breaks that trust. And one thing of breaking that trust brings you down several more notches. Not one notch, but several notches. So trust is built in small moments and destroyed in a single moment. So the habits are to make people feel interesting, to serve instead of impress, to create psychological safety, to remember the little things, to leave people better than you found them, and to be consistent and trustworthy. So when you think about someone in your past, and Nisha told me that it was her librarian when she was 7 years old.
Mhm.
So think back to someone in your past that you just have never forgotten them. They're special for whatever reason. How did they make you feel?
I'll go, and I think I want to change it. Instead of the librarian, I met uh, another lady about 6 years ago
Mhm.
through social media. And as we were having a conversation, she said, I noticed that you're waiting for people to give you permission and you shouldn't be. And she was like, so I give you permission. Go do the things that you want to do. And in that moment, it was kind of like, whoa. And she was like, you can't live your life waiting for people to give you permission to feel okay about going after your dreams. So if you're
Yes.
to say it, then I'm going to say it. So that shifted my perspective, and it made me feel good that she understood what was holding me back even when I couldn't see it.
Yes. Yes. That's a good one. That's a really good one. How about you, Dee Dee? How did somebody make you feel?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a word for that. You know, it's Isan Yu, and Isan Yu has 3 PhDs, and it's all in languages. And he was one of the reasons the Korean agreement finally worked, and he was brought by the United States government from Korea here to save his life. Um, and he taught at our university. And Isan Yu and I, we shared a love for what was happening internationally, what was happening to other cultures and other worlds and other languages. And we would sit down and just people would gather around us because of our conversations. And we were always trying to hide in the cafeteria or around campus to find a place to talk alone. And it didn't matter where we went, these huge groups of people would gather. And I loved him because we had common interests. We had like a mind connection, and we shared the same curiosity and questions. And we would come back with each other for new things. And he was 78 years old and I was 23, and I absolutely adored and loved him. Had he been single, I would have married him, kind of thing. And he loved me the same way. His idea of a good compliment was, "You've got sexy ankles." You know, and Yi Sung-yu was a person who taught me, I guess, that my inquisitiveness, my curiosity, my love for what's out there
Mhm.
was good.
Mhm.
Before, you don't ask any questions, don't challenge, don't, you know. So
Mhm.
he actually made me feel okay about my inquisitiveness, I
Mhm.
think.
That's great. So,
I had about that for a while.
yeah. So the words that come to me based on hearing both of your stories is that you felt seen
Mhm.
and you
Yes.
felt heard,
Mhm.
even to a place that you didn't realize,
See?
and
Mhm.
that they showed their love to you enough to tell you the truth, and including your sexy ankles. So, you know, it's it's those types of things that make people memorable
Mhm.
because you feel seen, you
Mhm.
feel interesting, you feel cared for, and, it's a matter of just words like calmer,
Mhm.
um, valued, heard. Those are the types of things that a person who is liked and trusted and remembered in a positive way does. And they do it through communications because whether that communication is just a hug and with no words, whether it's sitting down and trying to find a quiet place to talk, even though you're surrounded by dozens of people. Um, last night I've been editing Jennifer's book, and I finished my first read through last night, and I don't want to give it away because it's really something you need to experience. But near the end of the book, there's a chapter that had me in tears because I felt like she saw me. Now, that's what the whole book is about. The whole book is about her coming alongside women like me and helping me understand by what she went through the truths that she's learned about the floors of sleep and sugar and strength and joy and et cetera, et cetera. But this one chapter came out of nowhere and has nothing to do with the floors. And when you read the book, um, and I will ask this question once people have had a chance to read it a week or two after it's come out, how that particular chapter touched them.
Mhm.
But just based on the communication of her writing, putting words on paper and me reading them, I felt
See?
valued and I felt heard and inspired to do something different. So it all comes down to communication and how you make people feel, how they feel when they first meet you, if they feel safe, down to if they feel important because you remember the little things. There's a legacy exercise, and if you have paper and pencil, I'd love for you to jot this down. So, a 7-day challenge. And Dee Dee, for you and me, it's a little bit tougher because we work from our home. Nisha, you have a chance. You get out more than we do. Um, but still think about these things over the next 7 days and think about adding one of these things a day. So on day 1, use people's names. One thing that I do, and I think that generally it's very positive, is that if I'm out and I'm working with a sales clerk or wait staff or something that's got a name tag, I always use their name when I talk to them. I give them that respect. So use people's names where you can. On day 2, ask one more question. So instead of jumping in with your opinion right away, ask another question. And that question can be, depending on the conversation, something about them. You know, I've never asked you, what do you like to do when you're not at work or, however you know them? Or if you're talking about a specific topic, ask them, well, what would you see as success for that?
Mhm.
Just ask one more question. Number 3 is a bit more difficult, and that is to give complete attention. This silly little box that we all have is so distracting for us. Our phones are constantly ringing, pinging, vibrating, texting. People can reach us at any time, and it doesn't matter what we're doing. So even if you're holding it and you're not looking at it, if my phone vibrates in my hand when I'm having a conversation, they've now lost my attention for a few seconds. And they deserve more respect than that. So be very present in what you do and give complete attention. And and where possible, keep this out of sight. If you're in a Zoom meeting, an online meeting, don't put it next to your desk. And definitely turn it on vibrate so that it's not pinging, so that you're not distracted by it. You're not distracted as somebody's talking too much and you're thinking, well, I could just check my messages and they'll never notice. We always notice. So you want to give people your complete attention. On day 4, remember one personal item when you're talking to somebody. Children, hobbies, something about work. On day 5, specifically encourage someone. I am an encourager. That is my role in life. That is my purpose in life. And I don't blow smoke because that's not encouragement. However, I frequently will tell the lady in the grocery store, or the guy in the grocery store with the small kids, if they are demonstrating it, I'll stop and tell them, you are being a great dad. Because being a mom or dad is hard. And if you are talking to your children as opposed to talking at your children, if you're talking and not yelling, et cetera, if they're being particularly well behaved, if they've shown good manners, I like to tell a parent that. I mentioned earlier in the conversation about the older lady who had the most beautiful skin. I didn't have to say anything. She doesn't know me. It wouldn't be the end of her day if someone didn't come up to her today and say, "You've got beautiful skin." But it was something I noticed. And when I notice something, I feel like I need to encourage them. So as you see someone on day 5, encourage them specifically, just one person at least. On day 6, leave every conversation better. Leave the person better after you've left them. And whether that's because you've given them a solution, encouragement, hope, clarity on an issue, leave them better. And then on day 7, ask yourself, after you've had a conversation with someone, who felt important because they talked to me today? Life is hard. There is always something. There's always one more thing to do, one more person who needs your attention, one more, one more, one more. And so by being a person who shows interest and calm and encouragement, when you show someone that you hear them and you see them, you're giving them a small gift. There's a phrase, a quote actually, from the poet Maya Angelou, who says, people aren't going to remember what you said to them, they're going to remember how you made them feel. And I butchered that quote terribly, but you get the gist. People don't remember you because you talk the most in a conversation. They remember you because of how you made them feel. And trust begins with that connection. So let me summarize the 6 habits of communication that psychologically make you more liked, trusted, and remembered. Number 1, make people feel interesting. Number 2, serve instead of impress. Number 3, create psychological safety.
Mhm.
Number 4, remember the little things. Number 5, leave people better off than you found them. And number 6, be consistent. Your communication can become unforgettable because you have helped people feel something positive. When people leave your presence because they feel more valuable than they did when they first talked to you, then you have succeeded that day. And you've definitely succeeded in that conversation. So being liked and trusted and remembered, that doesn't diminish your expertise, that doesn't diminish your knowledge. But because communication is an experience, experiences are based on emotion, and specifically the way that you make people feel. So that is the answer. So how do I become more liked, trusted, and remembered? By making people feel something positive. Any questions?
Yeah, it's not really a question, it's advice.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that tend to deliver negativity with a positive statement.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar-coated razor blades, as I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it extremely hard to communicate with people. Oh, you'd be good at that if you weren't so rebellious.
Mm-hmm.
They're judging me, they're putting this in, and then they want me to communicate with them. And, when I see that, I just close up. I don't want to communicate with it. And then I'm seen as belligerent, untrainable, things like this. But I don't know how to address that person's communication style as being untrustworthy, as not wanting to speak to them at all, because I wouldn't trust anything about myself to that individual, because it feels like they would twist it
Mhm.
to their benefit, to their observation, to their opinion.
Mhm.
And boy, it's kind of hard to leave conversations like that.
Well,
Leave the person better than you found them. It's more like,
well, and sometimes that's what you need to do. You need to verbally smack them because
Mhm.
that, in the long run, if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to other people.
Oh, yeah.
And that means that they have a bad communication style.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need to risk your relationship with them
Mhm.
by calling them out on it. The biggest thing that when you do call them out on it, though, is to become emotionally stable.
Uncommon.
You need to be very calm when you do it because if you lash at them, you're just supporting
Mhm.
what they
The
believe.
concept. Mhm.
And so
Well,
what you need to do is just and when I'm angry, if
mhm.
I'm having an unpleasant conversation with somebody that's not being productive,
Mhm.
I speak slower and I speak quieter.
Mhm.
And I do that to calm myself
Mhm.
because I don't want to say anything that I will regret. That doesn't mean that I don't speak.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that sometimes I don't interject a zinger or two.
Mhm.
But it's important to respectfully and calmly call them on it, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Because if they're going to treat you that way consistently, now, if they're just having a bad day,
Mhm.
we give them grace.
Yeah.
But if that's who they are as a person,
Mhm.
then you really need to be able to say, could I just say something to you?
Mhm.
When you put things that way, when there's the if,
Mhm.
you'd be really good. If that if really hurts my feelings because it makes me feel like I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
And
Nicely said. Yes.
and you know, one of two things is going to happen. They're all either going to realize that they have made a mistake.
Mhm.
They will correct themselves apologetically.
Mhm.
Or they're going to turn it around and they're going to say something like, "Oh, you're just being really sensitive. Oh, no, I
Mhm.
didn't mean it that way. What I meant was if smarter." Well, that's what you just said earlier. You just didn't use that word.
Yeah.
Um,
You've now changed directions, right? But not the negativity. You
exactly,
know,
not in a good way.
yeah, and one thing I admire about your communication styles, which I should probably write in a testimonial or something, is that while I hear you communicate and use the methods that you use, I never hear you say something negative about the person. You say how it affects you. You say what it makes you feel, that you don't like that, but you never say, well, you're being a real asshole, or pardon the expression. You don't become negative, which I really very much appreciate in your style. I always have since Vicky introduced us years ago to help you train people and so on. I really admired your communication style.
Well, I appreciate that. And the thing is, it serves no purpose to lash back out at them because all
Mhm.
it does is spiral the conversation down and there's no solution.
Mhm.
Now, I used to have, when I was in the corporate world, my nickname was the Velvet Brick because I could fire your backside and you'd walk away thinking I was the nicest person because, you know, getting personal,
Mhm.
even if you're being terminated for cause,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be personal.
Mhm.
Even though you have just said something to me that hurt my feelings,
Mhm.
I'm going to give you the chance to make it right. Now, if you keep talking trash and saying nasty things, then I won't stoop to your level, but I will shut it down.
Mhm. Um, and you had mentioned our challenge. Am I running over too long? Okay. You had mentioned in our challenges that you and I work from home. You know, most of the conversations that I have lately have the depth of a flat table. You
Mhm.
know, they're just, so what you doing? Oh, so what's going on? Oh, so how'd you like that? Oh, did so and so get their operation? They're all they're all just, social chit chat.
Mhm.
And so should I sit in front of a mirror and talk to myself, or what should I do to have practice these things?
It does make it tougher without a doubt. I was talking to a client last night,
I don't even have a husband or a daughter that'll get mad at me, so I can practice patience.
well, then you should come and visit. Because having a husband and daughter at home, that's a whole new communication dynamic. Talk to the dogs. Ask them
I've
how they're
been doing that. Right. I've been doing that, and you know something? They've been telling me that they're not happy with me not giving them enough attention. I have to really connect.
I understand. And it works with pets too. And it's the same way. They need to feel appreciated.
Mhm.
Um, if you beat a dog, they're not going to like you. It's showing that unconditional love to them that they give to you. And that's what it's like with people. And you could use love in a lot of different ways, but in every conversation, having them leave you feeling that they matter, that you you are important to them, and that my life's a little better since I had that conversation. That's cool. Nisha, do you have anything you want to wrap up with?
Not really. But I am excited about the challenge because it's going to force me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about that and to report back to y'all next week. And maybe Dee Dee, we should schedule a time to chat with each other to practice.
I would, I would accept that. I would really accept it and appreciate it. That would be nice. What time do you want? There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
But only one of those 7 days.
I'm going to
Very
message you and we'll figure it out.
Okay, good. Message me.
That's great. Sadie, thank you for being here today. And for those of you on the replay, thank you for taking the time to join us. It means a lot to me when you come back. So I'm going to turn off the recording so we can say our